Eidos Montreal and Square Enix's Guardians of the Galaxy is finally out now on PlayStation, Xbox, PC and Switch as a cloud version. But is it worth your time? Well, I've played about 6 hours of it and I'm roughly about halfway through it, so let's just talk about my impressions. So the basic premise of the game is like Uncharted set in the Guardians of the Galaxy universe. And by that I mean a cinematic experience with some linear areas, plenty of chatter between the characters, and some side exploration with some collectibles at the end. Obviously you take control of the Guardians of the Galaxy and Star-Lord is the main character. The other characters are used for abilities in combat and just general banter during the gameplay. From the get-go, the options and accessibility are quite robust, so you can change things like how much damage you do, how much damage you take, and things like that. And on top of that, the accessibility options are quite good too. I have to commend Eidos here because having all these options at your disposal is a really good choice. With it being such a cinematic experience, I think it's only right that we start there. The cutscenes are great. It starts off with a flashback with Star-Lord in his bedroom down in the basement, and it just reminds me of Stranger Things. And it's here where I notice the facial animations are really good and it helps sell the characters even more. I think the game in general does a great job at introducing the characters, giving you a small bit of backstory, and then just having so much banter between them during the game that you really fall in love with them. It's a really endearing cast of characters, and being with them for the past 6 or 8 hours and hearing how they interact with each other was just fantastic. And on top of that, the writing is brilliant. Now, the Guardians of the movies are known to be really funny, and I think in games sometimes it struggles with comedy, but I would actually go out of my way to say that this is one of the funniest games I've ever played. I'm not saying I was rolling around the place laughing, but there was just a few little lines and little interactions that just had me chuckle a bit. Now this is where the game surprised me the most. I was expecting a really combat heavy experience, but rather you spend a lot of your time talking to your party members. And I actually found myself going out of my way to talk to the characters. Now there are a few dialogue choices, but they don't make much of a difference. You get the Drax will remember this, or Rocket will remember this. But the only thing it changes, I think, is down the line they might refer back to it, which is a nice touch, but it would have been cool if there was a bit more choice. But even without the choice, I still went out of my way to listen to the characters talk to each other. It's the best when you're exploring the levels and they're just bantering off each other, and some of the lines are really funny. Like they might slag you because you went off to a side objective instead of doing the main objective, and these lines are really good. And when I'm talking about main and side objectives, I may as well talk about how the levels are designed. So they're extremely linear like the old Uncharted games. There's a few side paths, but I'll get onto them later. As you run around, the characters talk to each other, and as I already said, it's great. I love every single line. I sit there with my headphones on and I'm just engrossed in it. Usually in a game like this, I might listen to a podcast, but it just wasn't the case with this game. Exploring the levels is kind of boring. You either get upgrade materials or you get things to add to your compendium, and most of these things are just collectibles. Some are costumes, which are nice. The upgrade materials aren't too hard to come by, and unless you're going for a trophy, you don't really need to get 100% of them because they don't make much of a difference. There's maybe 2 or 3 upgrades that I'm glad I got, but the rest are pretty useless, like increased health, but the game is quite easy, so you don't really need the increased health. Now how you find them is where the variety comes. So you have, say, an ice shot that would freeze water so then you could climb on things, or you might have an electricity shot that you could shoot to change a circuit and then it would open a door and you'd find a collectible or something like that. And then on top of this you have abilities that your 4 party members can do, like say Drax can lift a heavy pillar so that you can jump on top of something, or Groot can make a bridge so you can cross a gap. Once you do a few of these, they all start to feel a bit samey, so I wouldn't really encourage you to do them. That leaves one of the biggest chunks, which is the combat. And here it's like a third-person shooter mixed with a few action skills. So far I have 2 abilities unlocked for each character. So with Star-Lord I have a hover ability and then like a bullet hell automatic shoot thing that does a lot of damage. The fun, however, is when you start to combo different abilities from different characters. So let's take Groot for example. I use one of his abilities to root everyone to the ground, and then I use Rocket Raccoon to throw a grenade in and then it deals AoE damage. And then on top of that I have Gamora coming in with a multi-slash ability, and it all just starts to get really explosive, and then add in Star-Lord's elemental shots and it really starts to get a bit hectic. So far the enemy variety is actually really good. You have like beasts, and then you have these weird jelly slime things that have spikes coming out of them, and then you have human characters, and you can use different elements to damage them in different ways. So if you take the slime for example, if you freeze them you can then crack them and then expose their spikes in the middle so you can shoot them. Or there'll be enemies that have ice shields or they have electric shields and you have to use the corresponding element to destroy it. Now so far the combat's been really easy. I'm playing on normal difficulty, and even though it's really easy, the enemies are super spongy, which is quite annoying. So in the options I turned up how much damage I dealt, but even still the enemies are quite spongy. On top of this, I can see it becoming slightly stale. Maybe if this game goes over 12 hours, it might become quite repetitive. Each character have 4 abilities that you can unlock as you gain skill points, and so far I have 2 for each character, and they work really well. Some are AoE attacks, some are single attacks, so there's a nice variety so far, but with only 4 each, and I'm assuming I'll unlock them relatively quickly, it might become repetitive once again. One of the best parts of Guardians of the Galaxy is the soundtrack, and it's absolutely fantastic in this game. I can't believe they did it so well. Now, I can't show you them because, you know, licensed tracks, I don't want to get a copyright strike, but just look up the songs that they have in it. They have Wake Me Up Before You Go Go, Never Gonna Give You Up, Tainted Love, We Built This City. They're all the ones that I can think of off the top of my head. And in combat, you have this rally ability where you go into first person and you give your teammates a pep talk. It's kind of a bit crap. It's a bit of a stupid system. It takes you out of the combat, but it's always worth it because at the end, Peter Quill takes out his tape deck, presses a button, and a random license track plays as you're running around shooting them and blowing things up, and it's genuinely fantastic. Seriously, I can't believe they did that so well, and they have to be commended for it. Now, it's not all good. It does that Uncharted thing where, like, a lot of the areas you have to, you know, you're squeezing through a rock or you're climbing under something so that the game loads. And I was really hoping that sort of stuff would go with the new generation of consoles with the faster loading. But here, it's quite annoying. There was a few audio glitches and a few visual glitches, but mostly audio glitches where it would, like, double over itself. Or at one point, Gamora played a line over her line, and then the subtitles got messed up. It was really weird. I actually have the clip, so I'll show it now.
Everyone else can go to hell.
I prefer the rodents plan.
Is there any...
On top of that, the game did crash once, only once. It was in combat and it got really hectic and then the game froze. But so far, one crash nowadays really isn't that bad. I'm surprised by the game. I do think it's really good. It's a great cinematic experience. Obviously, it has its issues. It could get repetitive, but the writing is fantastic. And so far, I'm really engrossed in the story. Am I glad I spent €70 on it? I would say probably not, because I do plan on just finishing this by the end of the week and then just trading it in, because I paid €70 for it and I'll probably get like €50 store credit in GameStop. So at that rate, paying 20 quid to play the game, brilliant. If you love the Guardians and you want a cinematic experience, then it probably is worth the price. I think it's about 12-15 hours long, so you get a good bit of playtime out of your money, and it's also relatively high quality. All I can say is that I am genuinely surprised by it. It's a lot better than I thought it would have been. So if you're on the fence, wait until it inevitably drops to like 40 quid at the end of the year or maybe the start of next year. Obviously this video is a bit rambly and I will get better with them as time goes on. I just think they're a nice way to get content out where I just sit down and have a chat. So there we have Guardians of the Galaxy on PS5. I actually quite like it. If you've played it, let me know what you think down below. I really appreciate your time. Don't forget to subscribe, join the Discord, follow me on Twitter. I'll be streaming on Sunday, on the 31st of October. I'll be streaming Pumpkin Jack. It's a 3D platformer, kind of like Medieval. And I hope to see you there. So thank you very much for watching. I'll see you all on the next video. Goodbye.